and we thank you for honoring our invitation at short notice. Let me start by apologizing to you for starting this press conference 1 hour late. We have invited you here to address you on events that took place during the election of the Speaker of the 8th Parliament of the Republic of Ghana, the 4th Republic of Ghana, and fallouts from that election. But before we commence, let me acknowledge media organizations who are streaming this important press conference live on their esteemed platforms. In Greater Accra, we are live on GH1 TV, Metro TV, Joy News TV, Pan African TV, Home Base TV, UTV, Power FM, Asempa FM, Class FM, Accra FM, and Ahoto FM. You can also watch us on social media on Wazor TV, Pan African TV, Radio Gold, and the NDC's Communication Bureau page on Twitter and Facebook. As always, we are live on dozens of stations across the 15 other regions of Ghana. But because time is not our best friend this afternoon, we will start and acknowledge these stations as we move along. And so, let me acknowledge the presence of members of Parliament, our gallant, courageous members of Parliament who are here. I can see Honorable Bizidin, I can see Honorable Ejia Ladi, and I can see 2 of our gallant members of Parliament here. Please, comrades here in Ghana, let's give them a round of applause. We salute them for their courage and dedication to the party and Mother Ghana. We also acknowledge the presence of all members of the Functional Executive Committee who are here, and all former appointees and regional executives who are sitting on the podium. So, ladies and gentlemen, with a round of applause, let us welcome to the podium the man who will be addressing us on these very important national issues, our General Secretary, the only general in Ghana's politics, and Chief Executive Officer of our party, ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Asiedu Nketia. Let's welcome him.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the press. May I take this opportunity on behalf of the entire leadership of the National Democratic Congress and on my own behalf to extend to you all, and all Ghanaians healthy New Year wishes. We have convened this press engagement to focus attention on the historic developments and other matters of grave concern relating to the election of Speaker and Deputy Speakers of the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana, which transpired 2 days ago. From the onset, I'd like to salute and celebrate our gallant NDC members of Parliament for the brave fight they put up in the defense of the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana and, by extension, our democracy. By their resilience and dogged determination, they were able to produce an outcome never before seen in the political history of our dear country. In congratulating the NDC side of the House, permit me to also commend the true nationalists on the MPP side who put the national interest above parochial partisan interests, which led to this glorious outcome. The election of the veteran legislator and perhaps Ghana's most decorated member of parliament, who has been an MP since 7 January 1993, is a refreshing development which presents positive prospects for our democracy. That said, ladies and gentlemen, events preceding and during the election of the Speaker have cast dark clouds about our democracy and has once again exposed the undemocratic tendencies of the Akufo Addo-led administration. Indeed, some of these events caused serious embarrassment to the Ghanaian people and brought international shame to our democracy, which was once the envy of many nations. The indelible dark imprints of 6th and 7th January 2021 left many, including us in the NDC, wondering how our once vibrant democracy has sunk and continues to be denigrated under the watch of President Akufo Addo, who has supervised the most fraudulent election in the history of our republic. Let me firstly place on record the National Democratic Congress's total condemnation of the dastardly acts of connivance to abuse judicial processes, intimidation, brazen disregard for the provisions of the 1992 Constitution of Ghana, naked acts of robbery and disregard of the electoral laws of Ghana, as well as the desecration of Parliament occasioned by the invasion of armed commandos of the Ghana Police and Armed Forces, which constitutes an affront to our democracy. Secondly, I would like to formally commend the 137 NDC members of Parliament for their display of extraordinary courage, gallantry, resilience, dexterity, loyalty, and commitment to the cause of Ghana and the National Democratic Congress in the manner they put up the needed fierce resistance, even at gunpoint, to ensure a sound defeat of the forces of evil and the resounding triumph of our democracy. And finally, to congratulate Right Honorable Alban Kingsford Sumana Bagwin on the occasion of his election to the high office of the 8th Speaker of the 4th Republic of Parliament of Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, a brief account of the event that unfolded prior to, during, and after the election of the Speaker of Parliament would establish the appropriate background to our subsequent submissions. In compliance with Article 95(3) of the Constitution of Ghana, which provides, and I quote, "No business shall be transacted in Parliament other than the election to the office of Speaker at any time when the office of Speaker is vacant," unquote. The Clerk of Parliament, Mr. Cyril Kwabena Otin Nsia, who was clothed with the authority to convene the House in the absence of the Speaker, called the new House to order for commencement of official business at exactly 7 minutes after midnight on the 7th of January. When nominations were invited from the floor, Honorable Haruna Idrusu, the MP for Tamale South and the incoming majority leader, proposed Honorable Bagwin to take the chair as Speaker of the 8th Parliament of the 4th Republic of Ghana. Honorable Muntaka Mubarak rose to second the motion, but in a bizarre twist of events and in clear breach of the standing orders, the Clerk of Parliament, who was then presiding, recognized Honorable Afenyo Makin, the MPP MP for Ifutu, who rose on point of order. Honorable Afenyo sought to find out from the clerk whether he had received service of a Cape Coast High Court order restraining the MP-elect for Asen North from being sworn in as a member of Parliament. A debate ensued, but before all sides could be heard adequately. For instance, Honorable Dominic Ayine was on his feet, struggling to catch the eye of the clerk. The clerk overlooked all that and ruled that he had received the court order, so the MP-elect of Asen North could not participate in the proceedings. A clear, calculated ploy to reduce the voting strength of the NDC side. However, the clerk was compelled by his own embarrassment to reverse his earlier decision when he could not provide further and better particulars of the service, including the name of the bailiff who affected the service. At this stage, it became clear that an MPP official actually served the clerk with the court order and not a court bailiff. It is the considered view of the NDC that this act of connivance by the Clerk of Parliament constitutes serious misconduct on the part of the occupant of the high office of the Clerk of Parliament of the Republic of Ghana and must not go unaddressed. It is a big shame, ladies and gentlemen, that the Clerk of Parliament scandalously lent himself as a pliant tool in the conspiracy to reduce NDC's parliamentary numbers and give the MPP an unfair advantage in the speakership election. How an order of injunction was allegedly dispatched from Cape Coast at 4:44 p.m. could be served on the Clerk of Parliament at 4:55 p.m. when he was within the presence of Parliament performing his functions is a mystery which only the MPP and the Clerk of Parliament alone can explain. The NDC roundly condemns in the strongest possible terms not only the contravention of the due process of law by the Clerk of Parliament, but the shameful conduct of the Cape Coast High Court. Article 104, Clause 4 of the Constitution provides that, and I quote, where Parliament is considering a bill to amend the Constitution, or where the voting is in relation to the election or removal of any person under this Constitution or under any other law, voting shall be in secret. This provision was read and explained to the House before the commencement of the voting. Yet the MPP side of the House insisted on open voting, where each of their members was compelled to display their marked ballot paper openly to their leadership before putting it in the ballot box. In the face of this clear breach of the Constitution and the unwillingness or inability or both of the presiding clerk to enforce the rules, the gallant NDC MPs were left with no other option than to disrupt the voting and stop the continuous perpetrating of this impunity and fraud. Their demand was very clear and specific. Either the vote is conducted according to law, or there will be no voting at all. When it became clear that the MPP side could not have their way in flouting the rules, the MP for Bimbila and outgoing Minister of Defense ordered armed commandos from the military and the police, with the shameless assistance of Substandard Kwesi Ofori of Greater Accra Police Command, to invade the house in order to intimidate and push away the gallant NDC MPs who had occupied the center of the house to prevent the vote rigging. There was a standoff between the MPs and the soldiers, which lasted for well over 15 minutes. Once again, the forces of evil were eventually repelled amid boos of shame, shame, thieves, etc., etc. Calm was restored and voting resumed peacefully after leadership of both sides with the clerk. It is important to note that a significant number of MPP MPs still managed to display their votes openly, but they were ignored with contempt. At the close of polls, there were signs of relief that the worst was over. Little did anybody conjecture that the most disgraceful action in the history of parliamentary practice in Ghana was about to unfold under our very eyes. After the sorting of ballots, the completion of the first part of the counting process, which saw one rejected ballot and 136 votes cast in favor of Professor Mike Aaron Kwe, the MPP MP for Swami, Honorable Oseiche Mensah Bonsu, was seen directing Honorable Carlos Ahenkra, another MPP MP for Tema West, to the table where the ballots were being counted. In fact, Honorable Oseiche Mensah Bonsu was seen shoving another MP off to pave the way for Carlos Ahenkra. Immediately after, Honorable Carlos Ahenkra dashed to the table, snatched the heap of ballots being counted for Bagwen, and took to his heels in a Usain Bolt style. Once again, the gallantry of the NDC MPs was on display, and within minutes, the ballot thief had been arrested and the papers retrieved, even though he had managed to chew and swallow 2 ballot papers. Surprisingly, the same leadership of MPP who had orchestrated this daylight robbery in Parliament unashamedly began calling for annulment of the election on account of the ballots having been tampered with. You go and steal ballot papers, and you want somebody's victory to be annulled because of your thievery. This is exactly what played out in Senate West, where the MPP youth organizer snatched a ballot box, managed to break the MPP seal on the box. When he was arrested, and both the Electoral Commission and NDC accepted that the ballots could be counted, the same MPP people came demanding that the box had been tampered with, so it cannot be counted. And when the matter went to court, when the thief was sent to court, his senior official, the deputy regional chairman of MPP in Boron region, was the lawyer to defend him. When that defense failed and the thief was jailed 3 months, for tampering with the ballot box. Then they came back and tried to prevent the counting of the contents of the box through a court injunction. Fortunately, that did not succeed. The same way as Bagben's attempt to spoil Bagben's vote did not succeed. And so the NDC MP in Seneweth had to be declared the winner, the same way as Right Honorable Abam Bagben has also been declared a winner. The MPP demand for a rerun of the elections and the counter demand for the declaration of Honorable Bagben as the winner led to another 2 hours of stalemate before eventually evil had to succumb to the forces of democracy. In fact, at some point in time, the MPP were demanding that before Bagben could be declared the winner, we should accept a joint statement indicating that Professor Michael Okwui withdrew from the contest and there was no election at all. Can you imagine this? Everybody in the world saw the election happening, saw the ballot papers being stolen, and you want us to come and embarrass ourselves, or rather to share in your embarrassment with a common statement that the election didn't take place and Michael Okwui was never defeated and that he withdrew eventually to allow Bagben to go. Some of us insisted that Michael Okwui had lost the elections and let the whole world know that he had lost the elections because he was warned. In fact, I did warn him that he was too old to be a speaker. And I advised him that this was the time for him to dedicate the rest of his life telling Anansi stories to his grandchildren. He didn't listen. And he went in for the contest. So you must be prepared for the shock of a defeat. That's all. Nothing more, nothing less. So we are happy that the truth eventually prevailed. And some of us didn't understand why a clerk will conduct elections only for leadership of parliament to declare results. We insisted that the clerk must declare the results of his own elections. If he's proud of the election, he should say so. And that was done. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, Parliament in every democratic jurisdiction represents the bulwark of democratic freedoms, and we insist that this excessive abuse of power to intimidate members of Parliament represents a desecration of our highly revered parliamentary democracy and a grave affront to the dignity of the legislative arm of government. No other person than Nana Akufo Addo as Commander-in-Chief, or shall I say Acting Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces and Chair of the National Security Council, was directly responsible for the unwarranted, illegal, and despotic invasion of Parliament before its inauguration. Ladies and gentlemen, On the night of the elections, specifically as midnight approached, one could see at play all the condemnable acts of violence, intimidation, abuse of the judicial process, misuse of the Ghana Armed Forces, and the destruction of once revered state institutions that characterized the just ended December 7 presidential and parliamentary elections. What happened in Parliament from January 6 to 7, 2021 was simply God's way of bringing life to all Ghanaians, freely. The infractions and crimes the NDC had been complaining about since we went to the polls. The MPP's penchant to ignore due process, set the rules aside, and use brute force to have its way has now played out before Ghanaians and the international community freely. We would like to urge the newly elected Speaker and our MPs to always remember the hard-fought victory of that night and ensure they put the national interest first at all times. Ladies and gentlemen, the sad spectacle we witnessed in Parliament were just a repeated snapshot of what took place across the length and breadth of the country during the general elections held on December 7, 2020. The use of armed soldiers at various polling stations and constituency collation centers, snatching of ballot boxes, intimidation, harassment, and in some cases, killing of innocent, unarmed civilians in cold blood was what characterized the elections of 7th December 2020. The circumvention of due process, as we have witnessed in the election of a Speaker of Parliament, was played out in the form of plain thievery and systematic rigging, culminating in the flawed and fraudulent declaration which the NDC is challenging in the Supreme Court. As the world witnessed the ugly events of speakership election and the subsequent vindication of truth, we are quite confident that it is only a matter of time before the truth once again prevails in the matter of the 2020 election petition filed by our presidential candidate in the 2020 presidential elections, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. It is our hope that when the outstanding issues regarding the disputed parliamentary results, such as Techiman Saf, Sehuyoso, Hohoi, Takwan Suayim, Zabzugu, etc., are satisfactorily resolved, there will be a clear NDC majority in the 8th Parliament of the 4th Republic. Meanwhile, the NDC is calling for a full parliamentary inquiry to be instituted by the Speaker of Parliament into the unfortunate events of the January 7th, 2021 in Parliament, particularly the invasion of the Chamber of Parliament by gun-wielding military men with Azugu marks and the snatching of ballot papers by now dishonorable Carlos Ahenkra, and to punish all those who are found culpable in accordance with the laws of this country, including the conduct of the Clerk of Parliament on that occasion, and to forestall any such occurrence in the future. How the Marshal of Parliament allowed the security of Parliament to be breached by people who are described in parliamentary parlance as foreigners on the floor of Parliament. If you are not a member and you enter there, you are a foreigner. So how the Marshal, who is in charge of the security of Parliament, allows his domain to be invaded in such a matter must be a matter of inquiry. And those who deserve to be punished must be punished accordingly. Whilst at it, let me state clearly and unequivocally that notwithstanding the inauguration of Mr. Akufo Addo as President of Ghana, the NDC not, and I repeat, shall not recognize Mr. Akufo Addo as the legitimate President of the Republic of Ghana until all the issues surrounding his flawed election are satisfactorily resolved. I want to repeat that the NDC shall not, and they must watch my lips, the NDC shall not recognize Mr. Akufo Addo as a legitimately elected President of the Republic of Ghana until all the issues surrounding his flawed election are satisfactorily resolved. Thank you very much, and may God bless our whole country.